Welcome to 7 Minute Disney Tips, where I, 7 minutes at a time, hopefully this one may run a little long, I'll warn you now, attempt to help you plan your Disney trips, mostly Disney World, but some Disneyland and some Disney Cruise information in some videos as well. And when you are well prepared and have a good plan, you're going to have a more enjoyable trip. So in this video, I'm going to talk about dining at Disney World, which is why it's going to go over 7 minutes. That is a huge topic. We're going to try to hit some highlights and some overviews in this video, and then down below I'll link to some other videos that I have that are park level, a little bit of resort talk, and some of the things that I can't get to in this one. So I'm going to jump right into it. And the first thing I want to talk about is just expectations, and why I'm not going to do individual dining reviews or try to tell you what the best restaurants are. Because it's silly to think about best, right? With anything in life, anything at Walt Disney World, best is very, very subjective, and that certainly applies to dining. In fact, it very much applies to dining because we all have different tastes, obviously, right? I'm a meat and potatoes guy. I try different things. I've tried different things. You know what I like? I like meat and potatoes. I like steak. And so for me to say, oh, this is the best place, you must go here, if you don't like steak, I'm probably not going to be much help. I will in some other videos talk about some specifics that we've enjoyed over the years. The other thing to keep in mind is that the consistency of restaurants by their very nature is a challenge. I mean, you think about your local restaurants, where do you go? I'm going to try to name some national chains so I hit everybody, but like a Red Lobster, an Olive Garden, a Longhorn, an Outback Steakhouse. Those are, I'm not going to call them fine dining or even upscale, but those are nicer restaurants, right? That's not an inexpensive place. That's certainly a little different than driving through Wendy's or McDonald's in terms of dollars and time and commitment. And you think about those places, do you go in thinking, hey, this is going to be amazing? This is going to be a spectacular meal every single time? Well, you probably don't. Yes, Disney is expensive. Yes, Disney should be held to a higher standard. Does that mean they have to be perfect every single time in every single thing they do? I don't think that's a very fair expectation, and you're going to end up disappointed if that's your expectation. That's also why I don't talk about best must-dos, because there's going to be some inconsistencies, even at the finest restaurants. Now, the higher up the chain you go in Disney's hierarchy of restaurants, the less frequently that should happen, to be fair. But you're not going to get a perfect meal every time. So just understand that. And if there is a significant problem with a meal at any level, then don't be afraid to talk to a manager and be reasonable about it. But if it's not perfect every time, it didn't ruin your vacation, okay? It's just the reality. If you think about what Olive Garden and Outback and all these restaurants try to do in your local towns, yeah, on a Tuesday afternoon, there's nobody there. Even a Thursday night, there's nobody there. They're busy Friday and Saturday, maybe Sunday afternoon, right? Disney is at full capacity almost all the time at every restaurant, all day long, right? So what they're trying to do is so much harder, and if your local restaurants can't do it 100% of the time, why do we expect Disney to? So it should be great most of the time. Perfect always? No. All right, so we have fair expectations going in. What are we looking at? There's basically 4 core levels of dining. First is going to be snacks. We call it snacks. Snack carts is what most of this is. Sometimes there's little huts on the side of the walkways, just fancy carts, basically. That's where you're going to get your popcorn, which, by the way, is really good. Every once in a while, it's a little too salty, right? But it's really good most of the time. Get one of those refillable buckets. You got to carry it around the parks, which kind of sucks, but get one. Your roasted hot almonds and nuts will be there. Those are amazing. We love those. Your ice creams are going to be there. You can't go wrong with most of the ice creams. Mickey bars, amazing. Could probably do my own separate video on Mickey bars. Ice cream sandwiches are great. They've got fruit, which I think I see less and less of those all the time. But they do have ones with fruit. Then they have some specialty items, sweets, things like that. We'll call those snack carts. They're everywhere. You'll see them everywhere. They're good. They're overpriced, but it's Disney. Everything's overpriced, right? So then the next is that you have quick service, and Disney prefers to call this fast casual now, but basically this is where you go in, you stand in line to get in another line with hordes of people at meal times. That's another quick tip. Don't go at noon, don't go at 6 o'clock, right? Go try to get there at 11, maybe wait till a little bit more like 1. Crowds won't be quite as bad, although That's become more and more common as people. It's just always crowded, right? There is no really great time. They do a pretty good job keeping the line moving, and again, the volume of food they're doing, it's still pretty decent most of the time, considering that, especially a quick service. So you're going to stand in a huge line. Then you're going to go through another line where there's a cashier alternating sides. There's two sides. Then you're going to stand some more, wait for your food. A lot of this food is the same, right? A hamburger at this place is the same as a hamburger at this place. There's some theming. You get like Pecos Bills in Magic Kingdom will have a slightly different menu. They'll have some Mexican type items. They'll have some nachos. I think maybe a burrito, something like that. It changes. So I don't like to get too much into specifics. There's tons of specific information out on the web. Disney's website has current menus. They're pretty easy to navigate. They're pretty easy to find. I would recommend doing that if you want to see what is available at these different places as you try to plan. But quick service is going to be 35 to 50, 60 bucks, depending on where you're at and what you order. It's not cheap. That's a lot for hamburger, fries, and a soda for four. But it's not bad. And there's some things that are better than others. Tons of information out on the web about that. I'm going to try to keep it at a high level, like I mentioned. The next level then is going to be sit down. Disney calls this casual dining, but this is more of your restaurant experience where you go in, you sit down. Most of these places, and then server comes and takes your order and brings you your food, right, like any other restaurant. This is where you're going to need reservations. And reservations open up 180 days in advance. Yes, you heard that right. 6 months in advance. So if you've listened to some of the other videos on overview of planning, you know I talk about planning early. This is a big part of why. Dining reservations 6 months in advance. And it's 6 months from your check-in date, plus 7 days, or maybe even up to 10. Basically, the first day of your trip, you can book your whole trip for the most part. And there's some advantages and some tips around getting really popular restaurants like that. And there are some that honestly will be gone. If you tried it 179 days, there's going to be a few that are full. And now you can check back and you might get lucky. But so these are going to be your nicer restaurants. Again, I don't like to talk too much about price because things change. Family of four, this is going to be a $100 meal. Almost always. It can certainly be more. Maybe you can sneak in 80 bucks if the kids are still ordering off the kids menu. You can sneak in a little bit less. It's expensive. It is. The next level, sort of the highest level, is what Disney refers to as signature dining, and this is going to be your highest level. This is going to be a long meal. This is going to be a nice restaurant. They don't typically in the resorts have dress codes. They have suggestions. It's Disney. They're not going to kick you out. Especially in the theme parks, they're going to let you get away with casual much more than inside the theme parks. You get into some of the resorts, they will, I say, enforce, at least try to come close to the dress code. But for the most part, shorts and even a nice T-shirt's they're not going to turn you away. It's Disney, but maybe a polo, maybe some long pants at least. But check the website. There are dress codes at some of these places. The absolute elite, some of these, they will enforce them. Places that don't allow kids, for example, are going to enforce some nicer dress codes. There's only a few of those. And I won't get into all of those here for sure, as I've already gone well over 7 minutes and haven't talked about a couple of other elements that are important. So character meals is another big thing at Disney World, and they are really expensive. So some of the places some of the levels I've talked about have some pretty good food, right? Signature dining is going to be a really good meal. It's not going to be perfect all the time, but it's going to be a really good meal. Character dining is going to be more expensive, probably for a lower quality meal. But the reality is, with character dining, you're paying for the character experience, period. Don't expect the food to be great. It's going to be fine. It's usually going to be a buffet. It's going to be okay, right? I mean, it's going to be fine. There's a lot of it, and you go eat a bunch of it and drink a bunch of soda, get some desserts, whatever. You're paying for the character experience. Make no mistake about it. I'll talk more about character dining possibly in another video. I think it's worth it, right? Meeting characters takes a lot of time in line, takes time away from your park time. If you can do it at a meal, maybe it's worth it. It's a little bit awkward to have photos with plates and straws sticking up in front of them and a lot going on in the background maybe. But the characters come to you. They spend a little bit of time, and it's a great experience. It really is. Just know that's what you're paying for. You're not paying for the food. So when you're looking at prices $35, $50 a person, don't think, oh, that's going to be a great meal. No, you're paying for the characters. Similarly, Disney has a couple of other things that are unique. They have what they call dinner packages. And basically what that is it's a meal where you pay a little bit extra for the same thing you get otherwise, but you get fast passes to say Fantasmic that are in a special seating area. Or for any of the shows, really, any of the fireworks shows have these. It just gets you upgraded seating. I will say that a lot of times it's worth it. You don't have to get there quite as early to stake out a good spot, especially if you're going during a busy time. You still have to arrive early, but it's not as early, and you get a good section, right? You get a pretty good seat. So I would think about that, especially if it's at a restaurant you were planning on going to anyway. It's usually 10 or 15 bucks more. I know that adds up quickly for even a family of 4, but it might be worth it. It's again, everything at Disney is expensive. This might be one of the better places to spend it. There's one at Disneyland where you actually stay there and eat, and it's fantastic for Fantasmic. You know, those are the ones that make it worth it. Again, along the same lines, they have dessert fireworks parties, and again, it's a dedicated area where you have desserts. It's a buffet of desserts, which sounds amazing. They're okay. They're a little fancy. They're a little small. You can get as many as you want. I love desserts. Believe me, I love cake and cheesecake and pie. It's not what you're getting. You're getting maybe some cookies and some mousse, different flavors of mousse, and they're smaller, and they're not my personal taste. So again, I don't want to not recommend it because of the food. Just know that it's not really, you know, cake and ice cream and pie and sort of more traditional desserts, if you will. But again, you're paying for the viewing spot. I think some of the dessert ones are okay. They're not great. Again, the purpose of this video is just to inform you of these things. I would encourage you to do more research on these individually. Ask me. I'm happy to tell you more about individual ones. I haven't done all of them. I think they're all kind of the same, but I've done a lot of them. Okay, so I'm pushing double up what I try to keep these to. And I've just touched the surface. So there's a lot to dining. And dining, especially if you like to eat, right? If you enjoy going out to eat, you're going to do a lot of that at Disney World. So it's worth taking some time to do some research and really finding what you like. Being prepared early, doing those reservations early. So again, this has just been some things to think about. Don't mean to intimidate you too much, but just be ready. Be ready for this to be a big part of the planning, and for this to be a big part of what you need to get ready for. Again, this is where a travel agent can help you quite a bit as well. They can help you sort through a lot of this. They should, and if they don't, find a better one. They should talk to you about what you like, the types of foods that you like, the types of expectations you have from a dining experience. Not only make those recommendations, they can make those reservations for you, because I mentioned 180 days. It also opens, and again, times change, so I hate to mention specifics in these videos, but they open typically like 7 a.m. Eastern Time. Let your travel agent get up, or maybe 8 a.m. Eastern Time, and I'm used to 7 a.m. because I'm in the Central Time Zone. But those reservations open up early in the morning. Typically, there was a time when they opened like midnight, and then they changed it to right after the parks closed. So some nights it wasn't as early as midnight. Anyway, it's not 1 in the afternoon. It's either really super late at night or super early in the morning. Let your travel agent do that for you by using one, and typically they're going to be free. So why wouldn't you do that? Anyway, dining, big part of it. I've just touched the iceberg. I've got other videos that gets into a little bit more park specific. I'm not going to do dining reviews. There's a billion of those on the web, and I think they're a little bit silly because we all have different tastes. I think looking at element of consistency is maybe important, but for now, that's more than enough. I've doubled up my time. Please remember, when you do it well, planning is part of the fun. Thanks for watching.